video talking about sort of my live rig and what I'm about to try for the first time today. I think it's for the first time. Anyway, so I'm in a band with my wife and we play like function gigs, so weddings and that sort of stuff. The set list, the first half kind of ranges from sort of Justin Timberlake, Maroon 5, you know, the tragic stuff, Dua Lipa, and then the second set is fun. So it's stuff like Bon Jovi, Journey, all the fun stuff that's actually cool to play, sort of. Anyway, the guitar parts just range from clean to driven to solo. So it's relatively straightforward from that point of view. I'm not one of these people that has like a different preset per song. I have a preset for the entire set and then bring in delay when I need it and that sort of thing. For most of the gigs since I got it, I've used the HX Stomp XL, and this has been really useful actually. The HX Stomp I was using before this with an expression pedal, and I just found that it was missing that one extra snapshot or a couple of switches. So of course you could add some switches to the HX Stomp to get the same kind of effect, but this means that I've got I actually have the 3 snapshots along here, and then I have like a chorus here, a delay, and an extra drive switch here. So that's been really useful. That's been at the heart of the rig for most of the gigs. Out of here actually, generally go for these TRS to XLR things. So I tend to do sound for most of the gigs as well at the moment. So I have to take a PA and stuff. So part of what has to be right for me is that it has to all fit in the car and potentially fit in the car with a passenger. And also, yeah, it doesn't want to be like a total hassle because I've got to, you know, actually set up a PA. Like the guitar part is not even the main priority in some ways. So yeah, jack to XLR that goes straight to the desk. Then what else I've been doing is out of the headphone out of this, at the moment is how I've been doing it. I run on stage to this tiny little thing, which doesn't look like much, but this is a 120 watt little beast. This is a Henriksen Bud, and they sent me this to try out, and I've been using it pretty much for most of the gigs now because, I don't know, it's been really useful. And instead of going down this approach of the FRFR thing, I've moved away from this to the point where if it's something, so this can put out quite a lot of volume on stage. If it's like a marquee gig or something like that, which I'll come on to later, I feel like this potentially doesn't have quite enough juice, but for pretty much everything else, and some gigs you have to be quiet for a limiter and not making crazy amounts of noise. This is basically on stage to kind of reinforce the sound a little bit, not loads, but it can kick out quite a surprising amount for its size. And the cool thing about it, it's basically a bass speaker ported, and you can switch off the tweeter, and I think the tweeter might be the enemy of guitar tone. And I don't have to do anything to the presets, I just leave the IRs on. There's an EQ on top, and you know, if I want more bottom, if I want to take off some presence and stuff, I just use that. It's basically faff free, and I just plug it in and it gives me some stage volume. So that's been really handy. The other really cool thing about it, I've been able to use this for duo stuff with Lenny because it's got an XLR input as well. 2 independent channels, so we can set that up and just, you know, play acoustic stuff. So that goes with me to most gigs now. That's the Henriksen Bud. So the live rig has basically been that for a lot of the time, right? For most of these gigs where I'm going straight to the front of house anyway. So I'm having this on stage for some stage volume, and also so that I can take a bit of guitar out of front of house so that I'm not competing with the keyboard so much. That's been ideal. Today though, I've got a marquee gig, and what I was thinking for this was I'm going to have the HX effects running drives, delays and everything into the front of a clean amp, and also into an HX Stomp, which is going to go to the front of house like usual. So that's the plan with this. And you heard that in the introduction actually, I was running the HX effects into the HX Stomp. I'll just show you some of this in a second. And then, because we got 2 outputs here, we can output from the HX effects. I'm going to put one straight into the front of the Mesa Boogie Nomad because that can give me way more volume potentially than the Henriksen Bud. And in a marquee gig, I'm going to be chucking way more guitar out the front so that we can spread the sound a bit more, and also, as I say, leave
some space within the PA for keyboards and vocals and stuff. I don't want to take up the entire thing. So I'll show you this preset, and the Mesa Boogie Nomad is here. This is my first amp, but I'll just be running it clean, and it did sound really good and big and full in the room. So that's kind of the rundown of my rig. That's where I'm going with this stuff. I think it should be fairly fun. I'll report back on the gig. I did have the Mesa Boogie Mark 525, which I was running with the HX effects, and that's cool too, but it just meant that sometimes space in the car was limited. So having this approach where I can just take this tiny little thing instead of like the Mesa Cab, which is also small, but this, which can also do the acoustic gig part. Yeah, and I'm getting to the idea that you want to keep some part of the rig pretty much the same. So I think that's why the line 6 is a common element amongst most of this. Anyway, I'll show you the actual preset on here. So here's the approach on the HX Stomp here, which could be sitting next to the desk, potentially is probably where I might have it. We're going to be running a dual amp kind of setup. So that could be whatever I like, essentially. I may set it up to be like 2 Lone Stars or something. And then over on this side I've got a digital kind of delay for tap stuff. Okay, and then I've got a Super OD for solos. Because that's like an SD1 with a bit of a mid hump. Then I've got a Timmy here which I can add for additional gain. And here I've got a compressor EQ. Yeah, we've got a Rochester compressor, an EQ and a tube screamer, so we get this kind of thing. And what's cool about it is having these different levels of gain, you know, instead of having to be stuck with snapshots again. This is something that I've got used to the idea of. So it's kind of that traditional pedal board approach, which I think can be a bit more flexible, you know, if I can go. So that's cool. It's 2 Elephant Man delays on here. Yeah, if you want this preset, it will be called Live Preset, I've called it, imaginatively. Well, that's kind of the idea for me. It was just to put together like a little bit of a pedal board approach that can get the flavours of lead tone that I want, that I can then plug into front of house, into an HX Stomp, or into the amp, or into both. And because I'm mixing the streams like this, potentially, I'm going to be taking the Behringer Hum Destroyer, just in case I end up with a bit of hum. Then you kind of plug into that, and that tends to get rid of ground loops and stuff, which could be a potential issue that I might have to fight, but that'll be relatively straightforward. So that's basically my live rig. I'm going to try that tonight now, but yeah, HX Stomp still going to be going to the front of house, and then this going to both the HX Stomp and my amp, and hopefully
that'll get me through the gig, I reckon. Thank you for stopping by. Hopefully that was vaguely interesting in some small way. It's the normal sort of gigs that I guess probably quite a few of us do if we are gigging musicians. None of the fancy stuff, just your bread and butter kind of wedding gig. But I find them quite fun now, actually. Here's for that preset. Let me know in the comments if you want me to drop it into the folder. Live preset, that should actually work on an HX Stomp XL as well, which is an option. I'm just really liking the idea of having the scribble strips and stuff just to keep it really obvious what I'm doing.